You know, when we think of ancient Egypt, our minds usually jump to the big stuff, right? Giant pyramids, pharaohs who reigned for decades, dynasties that lasted for centuries. But what if I told you that one of Egypt's most influential dynasties lasted for just 12 years? Yep, this is the incredible story of the 24th Dynasty, a tiny footnote in the history books that, believe it or not, cast a surprisingly long shadow.
Okay, so let's dive right into this. A 12-year dynasty. I mean, the whole idea sounds almost impossible, doesn't it? How could a brief flicker of power, something so short-lived, leave any kind of real mark on a civilization like Egypt? Well, that is the exact puzzle we're gonna solve together.
I just want you to think about that number for a second. 12 years. That's it. That's barely enough time to get a major construction project off the ground, let alone establish an entire kingdom, forge a new cultural identity, and challenge the whole political order of Egypt. And yet somehow, that's exactly what they did.
So that's the big question, right? How did this tiny, short-lived kingdom manage to punch so far above its weight? How did they end up influencing the entire future of Egyptian history? Well, the answer, like with so many great stories, starts with a whole lot of ambition.
See, to really get the 24th dynasty, you have to understand the world they were born into. This was the third intermediate period, a time when Egypt was totally fractured and divided. And you know, an environment like that is the perfect breeding ground for a group of local rulers with some really big ideas to make their move.
And it all started right here, in the city of Sais, in the Nile Delta. The local chiefs there, they just weren't content ruling their own little corner of the world. Nope. They looked at the divided mess that was Egypt and saw a massive opportunity to go for the ultimate prize, the pharaoh's crown.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? They weren't just some regional warlords grabbing land. They were genuinely aspiring to pharaonic power. Their goal was to unite the North and bring back some sense of order. In their own minds, they were the ones who were going to fix Egypt.
And the man who lit that first spark was Tefnakht I. Back in 727 BCE, he was the one who took all that local ambition and turned it into a political reality. He founded the 24th Dynasty and started the incredibly difficult job of uniting all those different factions in Lower Egypt under one banner, his banner.
And you know what? For a little while, they were wildly successful. They weren't just conquering territory, they were actually building a real, functioning, and culturally unique kingdom right there in the heart of the Delta. I mean, just look at what they managed to pull off. They weren't just fighting, they were building. They created a centralized government in the Delta with an efficient bureaucracy that could actually get things done. They took control of crucial trade routes, managing their resources like a real state. And this is key, as we'll see in a bit. They started to foster a really strong, unique Saïkite cultural identity to give their new kingdom a sense of purpose. But a rapid rise like that doesn't go unnoticed. While these Saïte kings were busy consolidating their power up in the north, another powerhouse was on the move from the south, the Kushite kingdom of the 25th dynasty. A collision was pretty much inevitable.
This chart lays out the whole situation perfectly. You've got two incredibly ambitious powers on a direct collision course. In one corner, you have the Semites in the north, trying to unify the Delta. And in the other, you have the Kushites, based down in Nubia, expanding northward and directly challenging the Semites' claim to power.
And here's just how fast it all went down. The dynasty gets founded in 727 BCE. A mere 7 years later, the second and final ruler, a guy named Bakenranef, takes the throne. And just 5 years after that, it's all over. By 715 BCE, the Kushite kingdom from the south has conquered them. A 12-year flame just extinguished.
So, you might be thinking, okay, if they got conquered after only 12 years, why are we even talking about them? That's a fair question. And the answer is because their real legacy, the thing that lasted, wasn't about their political power at all. It was about the ideas they left behind. They were so much more than just a failed state. I mean, if we go looking for their physical legacy, as this image suggests, there's really not much to see. Their monuments, their temples, they were mostly torn down or built over by later conquerors. So if you were hoping to find their story written in giant stone carvings, you'd be pretty disappointed.
But this is where we find their true impact. It wasn't in buildings, it was in ideas, the administrative systems they created, and maybe most importantly, the unique artistic style they developed. Those things didn't just vanish when they were conquered. They planted a cultural seed that was going to grow later.
Their biggest innovation was something called an arcanizing art style.
So to build a new identity for their kingdom, they very deliberately looked way back into the past and revived the classic art forms of Egypt's Old and Middle Kingdoms, the Golden Ages. It was a brilliant move, a way of saying, we are the true heirs of Egypt's great legacy. It created this powerful sense of Sais pride.
And here it is. Here's the ultimate payoff. That cultural seed they planted, it actually survived the Kushite conquest. And much later, when another dynasty from Sais, the 26th Dynasty, rose to power, they picked up that exact cultural blueprint. The 24th Dynasty's ideas became the foundation for the Great Sais Renaissance, which was one of the last incredible flowerings of Egyptian culture.
So in the end, what does this little 12-year dynasty really teach us? Well, their physical kingdom was erased. It became a tiny footnote in the massive history of Egypt. But the cultural blueprint they created, this idea of looking to the past to build a new, proud future, that survived. It outlasted armies, it outlasted conquests, and it proves a really powerful point. Political power can be incredibly fleeting, but a powerful idea, an idea can be eternal.